What a great jar of fermented carrot sticks.
That is a good snack.
These won't last long.
Welcome back to the Fermentation Adventure. Today we are making a quick and easy recipe. We are making fermented carrot sticks.
Yum!
This is a recipe almost anybody right now can probably make. You have all of the ingredients most likely in your fridge at this very moment. And we're using lacto-fermentation.
So it's not pickling the carrots. In fact, we're going to let them ferment themselves in a salt brine. And with all fermentation, it makes the vegetables last longer. And we're gonna end up with some really good carrot sticks.
This recipe uses no vinegar at all. We're doing this the old-fashioned way from scratch.
If you'd like to learn how to make ferments like these, start now by clicking subscribe and hitting that bell so you don't miss a thing.
Let's get started. Now, since we're making a 1 quart mason jar, we're gonna use about 4 carrots. And depending on the size of these carrots, they might pack the mason jar a little bit differently. We do like to use organic carrots. I think they taste a lot better.
They really do. When it comes to organic, I like to buy especially berries, carrots, and celery.
If you can grow these at home, it's actually a lot of fun. You know, it's in the ground and then the little grain here, you pull it up. If you've never tried a homegrown carrot, you should definitely try to grow some because the flavor is incredible. So let's get to washing.
And we're gonna scrub these using a little potato scrubber. And I'm just gonna lightly scrub so I don't really take the peel completely off, but I clean any excess dirt.
Like we said, we don't have to peel these. If you peel these, you probably remove some of the bacteria and yeast that maybe you would want, and there's also more nutrition in the peels. Just gonna chop off the tops. I also like to cut off the ends too. It just makes them look a little bit prettier.
And we have, of course, our compost bowl.
Ooh yeah, the compost bowl. You should see what's growing out there right now. The papaya is growing. 2
banana bunches today. And we have a pineapple that's a pretty good size. It's so exciting.
And we're using a 1 quart mason jar. So imagine a 1 quart mason jar. If you put this whole thing in there, that'll be a little bit too big. So I think we're just gonna chop them in half and then either quarter them or maybe even into sticks.
I mean, the key is we want this to be finger foods, and especially like if you have kids in the house and they love to just grab a little finger food in one stick. So as long as they're edible, a good sized chunk, not too thick, then that'll work.
First, we're just gonna chop them in half. Now imagine these fitting into the mason jar. You're gonna be really wanting to pack these in. So next, I'm taking these big ones, kind of putting it at an angle and chopping it into fun little bite-sized pieces. This one, it looks like it's gonna be more into 8s.
This is a good size finger food.
Yeah.
I could just eat this like a Bugs Bunny.
The other nice thing about this is, say the smaller that you chop these, the more the flavor can get into the entire carrot.
Now this can be a little tricky. Be very careful not to cut yourself. And the nice thing about using carrots is that they are so hard. And that means that when you ferment them, even if you let it sit on the counter for weeks, they won't lose their crunch. Ooh, look at all those carrots.
You might even want to try this recipe with kids to have the kids make it themselves.
I think that would be a really great idea, especially in times where you're at home a little more often. That would be perfect.
Now that we have all of our carrots sliced, we're moving on to the next ingredient, and that is the onion. Usually we like about 1/4 of an onion, maybe even half of an onion. If you like a lot of onion, maybe put about 1/2 of an onion. We just have to get the peels off first. We're just gonna slice these up into slices. And moving on to the next ingredient, we need 4 cloves of garlic, and that is going to be the serious flavor for the recipe.
I have a whole head of unused garlic right here.
I think this will definitely keep away any vampires.
Those look like pretty good sized garlic cloves. The flavor is so amazing in these carrots when you add garlic.
We're just gonna chop the ends off of this garlic. And now to release all of the flavor from the garlic, we are gonna smash them as much as we can.
That is a huge clove you're about to smash.
Look at that, once you smash it, the peel comes right off.
Ooh, I'm actually starting to smell it.
So next thing, we are getting all of these ingredients into the mason jar.
Okay, I've got a mason jar right here. Make sure it's clean. Yes, I've cleaned it and sterilized it basically using non-chlorinated water, dried it out. So now we're ready to pack it.
There's a trick to getting all of this in there the correct way. So you want to get any loose ingredients on the bottom, and then when you pack the carrots on top, nothing will float to the top. We'll have something that'll keep everything below the brine anyway, but this is just an extra precaution to make sure everything stays below the brine. First, put the garlic in the bottom of the jar. Now let's get some onions in there. Now that we have all of the ingredients that might float on the bottom, we're gonna get these carrots into the jar. What I like to do is take the jar and turn it on its side and start inserting these carrots. So they lay on the side of the jar. And if you put it straight up and down, they're gonna start falling every which direction. If you lay it on its side, it's more likely that they'll all stay in place while you pack the jar as much as you can. You don't want to force them too tightly. Could possibly break the jar. I think we might be able to get them all in there, we'll see.
No way.
Maybe.
Hey, if there's an extra carrot stick for me to eat, that's okay.
Well, there's a...
Oh, thanks.
Might even want to give these
Whoa.
a nice little shake. Got it in there.
Whoa.
Okay, now that we have all of our ingredients in the jar, the next ingredients that we're going to add would be for flavor. And this one is going to be 1 teaspoon of dried dill. Now you could add fresh dill if you want to. The trick is you just have to add double the amount of what you would normally add dried.
We like to buy all of our spices in bulk. So we have all of these big containers and they take up a lot of space, but boy are they handy when you want to use a lot of something. We're going to use a teaspoon of the dried dill.
You just shake it up a little bit and then it'll get right down into all of the nooks and crannies because we want a lot of the flavor to get throughout.
Well, these end up tasting a little bit like a pickle because of the dill. So if you put different flavoring in there, then it's going to taste a little different. Another thing we like to do sometimes for flavor and add a kick is to actually add some crushed red pepper flakes. That's a good addition if you like a little bit of spice in your food.
If you want spice, maybe about 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper, or even some sliced jalapenos, and that could be almost like a pickled pepper carrot. And that's pretty good too. We like spicy, but if you don't like spicy, just skip all the peppers.
The final ingredient is your salt brine. That's what's going to help this ferment. We're going to use sea salt. It has more minerals, but really you could use about any type of salt. We've used various other types of salt and never had an issue. Just be sure to use the non-chlorinated water. That's very important, of course, because this is a ferment and we don't want to kill the good bacteria as it ferments on the counter. We're going to use our filtered water from the refrigerator today. So we're going to dissolve 1 tablespoon of salt into about 2 cups of water. And that'll give us the salinity that we need for this ferment. And that ratio of salt to water gives us about a 3.5% salinity. And we're gonna pour it right in. For more ratios and our salinity chart, check out the link in the description below. We're gonna fill it right to the lip of the quart jar.
Sometimes you have a little bit of water left over, sometimes you need a little bit more water.
So apparently we had really packed the jar because we actually only used about 1.5 cups. I have a lot of water left, but that's okay because the salinity of the whole water that we stirred together was exactly what we needed.
Now we want to make sure everything is weighed down.
Really, you could use anything that would hold it down. In the past, we've used like little jelly jars. We want everything to stay below the water line.
And we do this with a fermentation weight.
So it's a nice little heavy glass weight. There we go. I had to use a little bit of pressure to push that down in there. That's very important so that we don't get exposed carrots that might get mold as it ferments.
We like to use these fermentation lids. They're made of silicone. We're going to put a link to these below in the show notes, so check those out. We have used these on a lot of other ferments, and these are awesome. So what these fermentation lids do is you simply place these on top, take the ring that you would normally put a regular mason jar ring on, just tighten that down like so. Just like a regular lid, except this has a little nipple on top. If any pressure builds up, it all escapes out of there and no oxygen gets inside. Less likely to have mold, and that's a good thing. I think we're just gonna give it a little bit of a shake. You can see all of the little particles, all the dill, even the onions and garlic moving around just a little bit. We're just gonna get them excited and make them happy.
I'm excited and happy.
Yeah, no, she can't wait for this to be done. She'd probably eat them right now if she could.
Okay, so we are ready for the fermentation process to begin, but how many days do we want these fermented carrot sticks to sit on the counter?
So for these carrot sticks, what we recommend, what we like, is between 5 and 7 days. It really depends on your house. If your house is a little bit warmer, it might not take as long. If it's colder, it might take longer. But generally, 5 to 7 days has been perfect for us.
Well, we're going to show you what to expect, so here we go. After 2 days, we haven't seen much change. After 3 days, The liquid is starting to get cloudy and we're starting to see a few bubbles start to form.
After 4 days, we're seeing quite a bit of bubbles. Our carrot sticks have been fermenting for 5 days. We're gonna go check them out and maybe give it a taste test. Come on in. There's actually not very many bubbles left, so I think the fermentation is just about done. You can see on top there's a little bit of bubbles. The longer we go now, it's just gonna get a little bit more sour. The first thing you'll notice with this, it smells crazy like garlic. It smells really good. It's still very, very crunchy. That garlic tangy flavor is definitely inside the carrot now. I think that's just about done.
We now have a side-by-side and we're ready to check it out. Of course, after 5 days, you saw that it tasted good, it smelled good, everything looked good. It really was ready. But we wanted to let it go another couple of days to see what it would look like, and also maybe to intensify the flavor. We have our first jar that we just created with our carrot sticks, and then the second jar, which has been fermenting for 7 days.
I think it's perfectly ready.
Yes. Let's take a look. Oh!
We actually have KAHM yeast. Now this is actually pretty exciting because this has never happened on any of our other videos.
Oh, that smells yeasty.
Yeah, it actually smells like bread. Now, KAHM yeast is actually an aerobic yeast. This is pretty common. If you have sweeter things like carrots or beets or even peppers, you'll get that layer on there. The fermentation lid does a good job of keeping oxygen out, but we let it back in when we did the taste test on day 5.
Let's go ahead and remove that and see what's underneath. Luckily, this is the type of yeast where we can go ahead and scrape it off and everything underneath the brine should be just fine. I'm gonna take out the weight so we can try it. It's got a little bit more bend to it than when we initially started the ferment. Here we go.
Oh yeah. Cheers.
Oh, it smells very garlicky and sour a little bit.
Still very crisp?
Ooh. I feel like I'm biting into a good sour pickle.
For more awesome recipes like these, hit that subscribe button. It would really mean a lot to us. Give us a like and get out there and create some culture.